Chapter 11 is a structure of a promissory note and the simple discount note process. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, but you can have interest-bearing promissory notes or non-interest-bearing promissory notes. And the promissory note is simply just a note indicating that you intend to pay the face value, the principal, the amount that you borrow from someone back at a certain period of time. The only thing that makes it interest-bearing is if a rate is listed indicating that you'll be charged for the use of that money. A non-interest-bearing note is probably something that maybe a relative would have you sign, can be legally binding, and if the face value of the note is $10,000 and there's no rate that's indicated on there, then at the maturity date is the date that you actually pay back the face value of that particular note. Now, in Chapter 10, we talked about the simple interest note. We're going to look at the simple discount note in Chapter 11, but first, let's take a look at this first column. Interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. For example, if you take a face value of a note of $14,000 at 8% interest for 60 days, here is the formula that you use to give you $186.67 in interest. In the second step, you add that $186.67 to the face value, and your maturity value, the amount at maturity on a specific date, is $14,186.67. We're going to look at a new word, and the proceeds is equal to the face value, and the proceeds in the simple interest note is $14,000. The maturity value, the amount that we pay back at the end of that particular time, is the face value plus the interest. Well, the effective rate of this would be the value of the note, which is 8%, and it's calculated if you take the rate is equal to the interest divided by the proceeds times the time. So if you have your interest of $186.67, and then you divide that by 14,000, which is your face value, times the time of 60 over 360. You would calculate this first, and then it would give you a specific value. It'd be 186.67 divided by that specific value to give you 0.08 or 8%. Okay. A promissory note for a loan with a term of usually less than 1 year, for example, 60 days. Paid back by one payment at maturity. The face value equals the actual amount or principal of the loan. This is not the maturity value yet. The interest computed on the face value, or what is actually borrowed, is $186.67. So the maturity value is the face value of $14,000 plus the interest of $186.67. The amount that you pay back at maturity is $14,186.67. So the borrower receives a face value, $14,000. The effective rate, the true rate, is same as the rate stated on the note. In this case, it's 8%. This is used frequently instead of the simple discount note. Okay, now we're going to look at Chapter 11, and 11 to discount a note. The interest is your principal times your rate times your time, just like we did in the first chapter, in Chapter 10. So calculate that out, and that gives you interest of $186.67. Okay, the maturity value is equal to the amount of the face value, $14,000. So the proceeds is equal to the maturity value minus the bank discount. Okay, we called that interest earlier. Now it's called the bank discount amount. We subtract that from the face value of the note, and the proceeds is subtracted out immediately, which is $13,813.33, and that's what the borrower receives. Okay, the effective rate is always slightly higher than the stated rate. Our stated rate is 8%. Let's look how this is a little bit different here, because we are actually subtracting out the amount of the bank discount up front and then giving them the proceeds of $13,813.13. Still, rate is equal to the interest divided by proceeds times time. So you take your bank amount of $186.67 and divide it by the proceeds times the time, and calculate that out, and that gives you a value, 186.67 divided by the answer to that particular question will give you 0.081111. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right to give you 8.11%. So the effective rate is truly a little bit higher than the stated rate because you actually subtract out the bank charge up front and then give the borrower the proceeds. So a promissory note is usually a loan term of usually less than a year, for example, 60 days, just like it was in the earlier. It's paid back by one payment at maturity. The face value equals maturity value, what will be repaid. The interest computed on the maturity value or what will be repaid and not an actual amount borrowed. In this case, it's 186.67 for the bank charge. And the maturity value is equal to the face value of $14,000, the amount that we borrowed. The borrower receives the proceeds, and that's the face value less the bank charge, the bank discount, and that would be $13,818.33. The effective rate is higher since interest was deducted in advance. In that case is 8.11%. Not used as much now because in 1969 congressional legislation required that the true rate of interest be revealed. Still used where legislation does not apply, such as personal loans. Okay, so we are going to discount a note. That's where it leads into Chapter 11. There are 4 steps to do so, and the symbol is the same as it was for IPERT. In fact, that's still the first step. The first step is to find the maturity value in discounting the note, and that's the interest plus the principal plus the interest is equal to the maturity value after taking the principal times the rate times the time. Okay, then the second step is to find the discount period. The third step is find the discount amount, and the fourth is the proceeds. Okay, so now we have a new set. When we're discounting a note in step 2, the IPERT changes. Now the interest is now the bank discount amount. Then the face value is now the maturity value times the bank discount rate times the time that it's being discounted by the bank. Okay, in Chapter 10, I use the example of I shampoo my hair with PERT. IPERT, I-P-R-T. Well, now this is a little bit different. You have a B, McDLT without the lettuce, I guess, is a good way to kind of memorize that one. You may come up with another mnemonic that may be useful here. But this is the scenario. On January 9, Mr. Jones borrowed money or bought equipment from a ski rental company. Mr. Jones did not have the means to pay, so he signed a promissory note for the face value or principal of $2,500, which is due in 120 days at 12% interest rate. So at the end of the 120 days, Mr. Jones will have paid the ski rental company $2,600, which is the maturity value of the note. Okay, so what happened here is interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. Okay, we're going to find that out right down here in the first step. In the meantime, the ski rental company has too much money tied up in promissory notes. Therefore, the ski rental company takes Mr. Jones's note to the bank with collateral with hopes that the bank will buy Mr. Jones's note. On March 9, the discount date, the bank evaluated the note, evaluated Mr. Jones and the ski rental company, and decided to discount the note to the ski rental company at 15%. From March 9th to the end of the loan. So now, using that 4-step process, we're going to find the proceeds that the ski rental company will receive. So we're going to start with the first step, which is to find the maturity value. So we're going to use the formula originally that we did in Chapter 10. Interest is equal to principal times the rate times the time. So the face value is $2,500 times 12% or 0.12 times the number of days for the length of the loan, 120 days over 360 based upon the banker's method, and that will give us $100 of interest. We'll add the interest to the principal to give us a maturity value of $2,600. Now, in the second step, we are going to find the discount date. Notice that the discount date is March the 9th, and we originated the loan on January the 9th. I need to find out the number of days from January 9 to for 120 days and find out when it matures. So I'm going to do that in step 2. So January the 9th, for 120 days, the length of the loan is going to give me May the 9th. How do I calculate that? Well, first I start with January the 9th plus 120 days equals January 129th. Obviously, there's not 129 days in January. There's 31, so I'm going to subtract out 31 days in January to give me 98 days in February. There's only 28 days in February, so I subtract that from 98 to give me 70 days in March. There's only 31 days in March, so I'll subtract that from 70 to give me 39 days in April. I'm going to subtract 30 days in April to get from 39 to give me 9 days in May, which is legitimate, and that's the end of the loan period. May the 9th. Okay, I know that I discounted this note on March the 9th, so now I need to find the number of days between March the 9th and May the 9th. Well, March the 9th is the discount date right here, and I know that there are 31 days in March. So I'm going to subtract 9 from 31 to give me 22 days remaining in March. Okay? I know that there are 30 days in April, and there's 9 days in May, because that's when it expires. That's the end of the discount period and the loan. That's a maturity date. So I'll only use 9 days in May. Add up 22 plus 30 plus 9. That gives me 61 days in the discount period. Okay, so now I found out the discount period. Now I'm going to find what is the bank going to charge for that 61 days that they have access to that money. So now I'm going to go from interest is equal to principal times rate times time, or IPERT, to the discount amount. B, McDLT without the lettuce. Okay, so bank is the bank amount, bank charge, and then M is the maturity value that I received in step 1 of $2,600. Then I want to take that times 15% because that's what the bank's going to discount it at. So that's 0.15 times 61 days over 360. Okay, so whenever I calculate 2,600 times 15, or 0.15 times 61 over 360, that's going to be the bank charge of $66.08. That's the bank charge right there. Now, to find the proceeds in the 4th step, I'm going to subtract the bank charge of $66.08 from the maturity value of $2,600, and the proceeds is $2,533.92. Therefore, the bank will take the note on March the 9th and pay $2,533.92 in cash to the ski rental company. On May 9th, the maturity date, the bank will collect $2,600 from Mr. Jones, the originator or the maker of the original note. The bank earns $66.08 as a result of this transaction. Okay, this concludes Chapter 11.